Wonderful. Good morning. It's 8:03 a.m. on January 16th, 2026. This is the first meeting of the Ad hoc committee as created by the recent Portland, Maine Board of Education resolution. My name's Sarah Bryden. We have also board member Fatuma Noor and board member Mickey Bondo. Let's see, I don't know if it's possible for somebody, I mean, I could, but to maybe share the agenda for today's meeting. Uh, Let me get to that. But I do know the first, while I'm navigating to that and hopefully sharing it on the screen, the first order of business on the agenda is to nominate a chair of the committee. And Hey, thank you so much. Oh, that is TBD is not where we are. So, um, so it's Friday morning at 8 a.m. So anyway,
Mhm.
so I know that the last time I looked at the agenda, the first thing on the agenda was to nominate a chair. Um, and I am so pleased to nominate Mickey Bondo to serve as chair of this committee. I think Vice Chair Bondo just brings so much to the board, and I think would be a wonderful person to serve as chair of this committee. Um, so I think the next couple of things we need to do is we need to make sure that Vice Chair Bondo accepts the nomination. We need to
Yes.
potentially have some discussion among ad hoc committee members and then have a vote. Vice Chair Bondo, I will turn the floor over to you.
Yes, both bride and yes. I'm so delighted now. I'm so glad to accept the nomination to be the chair of the ad hoc committee. So let's go for the next for the vote.
Super. Let's see. So I think procedurally, the next thing we would need to do is see if there are any questions about the nomination. Not seeing any. Discussion. All right, so let's vote. I am a yes. Board Member Noor
Yes.
and Vice Chair Bondo.
Yes.
It's unanimous. All right.
Perfect.
Vice Chair Bondo, I will turn the floor over to you.
All right then. Thank you so much. You know what? Let me just see. I have a little big. Thank you so much. And I think we have, as a committee, we have a different goals. And I think what we can do now, we're going to discuss about our scope, our commission, our committee scope, and the goals, and also the timeline. What we have to go over. I just want us to remind us then the goal for us for that committee is to find a firm or individuals to do the equity audit. So that means that one is coming from the board resolution passed in December. So we have what we have to do, our scope, just to make sure that we identify and hire an external company or firm to complete a district-wide investigation of equity practices. So we can also understand where we are and also to make sure that we have the best practices and also if we are meeting the need for our student and staff. So I think let's go just open the discussion to see what's our scope and goals and our timeline. Okay. And just before we move, I think we have also the staff who's going to lead us through that process, right? We have the superintendent. I just want to make it right. Superintendent Scallion.
So no, I think that that first bit of that discussion in terms of scope timeline is really a board discussion. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
that Jen and I are here so that when there are action steps that the committee needs support on for following up, similar to like putting together an RFP or that kind of piece, that we support around that. But in
Okay.
terms of timeline, goals, et cetera, defer 100% to the committee.
Okay, great. So I'm just open up the floor to three of us to discuss about our scope, the goals, and also the timeline. And we feel like it's really appropriate for us to move that audit forward and to find to find to identify then the external company or firm who's going to conduct it. Yeah. So let's I try to put my all of my thoughts around since we had the building the resolution and coming to the audit. So I think what I want to see as a goal is that exactly what we mentioned in our resolution, to really understand where we are and if we are not utilizing the best practice during equity on different aspects of our mission statement, and also if we are meeting also the need of our students. So what I want to see from the firm exactly how they can find a little wider enough, specific enough to be more actionable. Like it's not like just giving, like then we need to have a report. I think what I'm really expecting as a goal, then we can have a roadmap to make sure then all our practices is exactly what we are applying on different aspects, like the HR, the core instructions, and also different like a discipline behavior, and also the reporting system. This is why I feel like the goal for us, from us to the firm, then we're going to hire, is going to guide us to more internal equity practices, and also to be able to make some analysis around hiring, retention, and the way we do promotion on our staff, and also the way our reporting system was working or not. So I'm just open up some ideas so we can go ahead, Sarah or Fatuma, if you have something to add on that.
Yes. So I think so I have the paragraph of the resolution that talks specifically about this up on my screen, and I'm just
Right.
reviewing the framework,
Okay.
around, you know, uh hiring the external company or firm, to complete this investigation of our equity practices, and the specifics around what it requires that we do. The goal being to help us understand where we're utilizing best practices and where we're not. The requirement that
Right.
this firm also provide comparative data to other districts, organizations, or institutions. And, the three of us on the committee specifying the scope and measurable goals. Measurable goals are so important. And
Exactly.
making sure that we're soliciting proposals from companies in terms of how we select who we're going to work with, review the proposals, and make that selection to bring to the board. So to me, it feels like everything you just said, absolutely. And to me, it feels like the next important conversation piece is to maybe get from staff a sense of the selection process. What does that look like?
Right.
How long does it take to do an RFP? Once the RFP is complete and the three of us all feel comfortable with it, I know there's like a publication component and then a time for proposals to come in. How long does that take usually? Those sorts of questions so that we can, because I think without those details and that framework, it's tough to speak confidently about timelines and goals around, when to
Exactly.
accomplish things.
Yeah. Totally agree. Perfect. Yes. Fatuma, anything else?
Yes, I would agree with everything that's been said so far. And I also want to emphasize that I want to look into a firm that's not only going to sh report on what's wrong, but also that comparable aspect of it, and if they can also help us maybe a guide on what to do next if that's something they can do.
Mhm.
So that's what
Yes.
I'm thinking about.
Yeah. And I think also before we move to the staff member role and responsibilities, I think what I want to see on that selection of that firm is that the way they do their work. I mean, what kind of methodology they are using, because I like data. So maybe if they're going to be able to access our qualitative and quantitative data. So those are some aspects that I want to see on that selection, and also the cultural competency, because most of the firm, we just need to make sure that we choose a firm who have a track record of working with diversity is so important, and also aligning for what Fatuma just mentioned. Then they need to be actionable. I mean, they need to make a list of recommendations for what we have done wrong and what we're supposed to do in a larger aspect of the what all the districts are doing better than us, and what kind of recommendation we can do, and also the transparency for us to be able to share all the roadmap and all the fundings to the public. So
Can I ask a follow-up question? And I think this might be a staff question. And also, Chair Bondo, do you want us to use the Zoom hand feature in terms of talking, or do you want us to be more just?
yeah, yes, yeah. You
Okay,
can go, because I can see you, but you guys cannot see me. So I can,
right.
I can call you anytime. So that's fine.
Um, thank you. So my other question, and this is like a logistical, RFP, best practices question. So let's say we put together an RFP and we publish it and we, wait the allotted time for proposals to come in. Do each of those proposals become public?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, oftentimes vendors will say confidential, not for distribution on their proposal, and they're all subject to FOIA. And so it's not that they get published by us, but they're all subject to freedom of access.
Yeah. Would we have the discretion? And let's assume for the sake of this conversation that proposals come in and they don't say confidential on them. Would we have the discretion as a committee to say, we just want to put them all on the website, so that people can see what it is we're reviewing? Is that something or would we need to sort of like talk through that in another subsequent conversation?
I mean, I think it's worth us asking that question. I don't see anything that jumps out that tells me that we couldn't do that. We'd probably just want to name that in the RFP that will happen, just to be really transparent. But I don't see what would prevent us from doing that.
Okay. All right. So sounds good. And I think we are clear about all those expectations and goals. And I think now we can move on to the staff responsibilities and roles. So I think, Superintendent, can you guide us on that, please?
Yeah, so in my mind, Jen Brady as the director of people and culture, and really leading or sort of holding the container for the equity work, is here to support and serve as a resource for that. The superintendent and Jen were both named in the resolution, so we're here for that. And for me, I think my role is, if you guys are talking about an RFP, that we make sure that finance joins and walks the committee through the RFP process, including support with the development of the scope that would be put out. And so I put in the chat, and we can post it for just visibility purposes on Diligent, what our RFP process is. But I think when we typically do this for a department, we usually have our finance team work with the department to help shape it. They have a ton of experience of what happens when proposals are vague, and how you just don't get the same level of response, and making sure that we're also following procurement law in terms of how we score it, who's on the committee, all of that. And so that, I think, is my job, is just to make sure that you have access to any other staff member that you need. And it would seem like, based on this conversation, it would actually be good to have Lisa here next week for that RFP development conversation.
All right. So if I understood well, so that's going to be our next step, right? This is going to be our next step, so we can start talking about shopping around for firms or just bringing all the scope first and then going to the purchase of the one you just mentioned that let me just open the document.
Yeah, so I'm speaking a little bit out of turn, but just like from a typical RFP process, right? The
Okay.
way it works is that the committee or the department develops the scope
Okay.
of the work and is really clear about what's the question we're trying to answer, what are the outcomes we want, right? You name some of them, measurable outcomes, comparables to other districts and work, a clear set of next steps, right? Those kind of
Okay.
pieces, as well as the process you want them to go through, right? So
Okay.
are you just having them look at our data? Are you having them interview people? Sort of what's the scope on which
Okay.
you're doing this? And then that gets put into a document. We share it with legal to make sure that we can turn it into a contract at some point. It gets posted publicly. It gets advertised in the newspaper. And then we can also choose to send it out to folks to make sure that they see. And so we don't just have to rely on somebody reading the Portland Press Herald on that Tuesday that the ad's there, but we can also do that. But it's really about first developing that scope, not
Okay.
about soliciting firms.
Okay, great. Okay.
And then once we get all the applications, then we're going to go through a scoring process that allows us to then select the vendor based on criteria we identified as part of the RFP process for scoring. Looked like Jen wanted to add one piece to
I
that.
wanted to ask a question about budget. So typically in the RFP process, do we post kind of a range, or do we invite vendors to say, here's what it's going to cost for this scope of work?
I think we've done both,
Both? Okay.
but I think that is something that obviously significantly like defines the scale of it. And so I think that's a good topic to raise with Lisa next week as well,
Okay.
just in terms of her experience with contracting and consultant work of what's the price point you're talking about for different scales.
And so the cost is generally a part of the scoring process, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. That makes sense to me. So, okay, I got thank you, Superintendent. I got the different steps. So, I think now for Sarah and Fatuma, I think we have to draft the scope, what we need. And I think that's going to be our next step. So, we already share a little bit some ideas. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just make a draft with all those ideas. So, I'm going to share to all of you so we can add or anything else then we need to see happening on the scope of the work so we can have a living document can be adjusted and then I think Jane or the other staff member they can start working on the legal piece of the contract. So what you guys thinking? I sense that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And the other question that that just popped into my head, uh, I'm curious about, so I see the two links in the chat. Do either of them have a way to get to a previous RFP to like, I'm a big fan of like, oh, this has existed before, template, sort of, an example of a successful RFP. Obviously the content will be different, but just structure wise, is that possible?
Not through the two links that are there.
Okay.
But yes, we can share with this committee and again, post publicly on Diligent, just so it's clear all the materials. We can get that to you probably even today.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple of examples. They will not be, for the most part, within this exact space, but the type of content that goes into an RFP will be visible. So it won't be a equity RFP, but it'll be others within sort of this sort of idea.
Thank you.
Okay. So, by just to get the sense of what you just mentioned, Sarah. So, where we have the kind of idea, so we have a way to see what kind of purchase, what kind of contract can come out from there before posting, or we do our draft first, and then everything else we come out with those samples, so we have a clear idea those sample contracts and with the budget after scoring can be able to move our selection forward. I just want us before closing, we see our next steps. So we
Yeah.
really understand what the process we're going through with a better structure. So I think what we have to see ourselves, I think if the superintendent just share one sample, we can have a clear idea where we're moving forward. But meanwhile, we can start drafting our scope so we know exactly what we need, what kind of selection, all those goals, and we just expecting from those firms or organization. Yes.
So the thought that just popped into my head was like wish list, right? So like I'm so excited to see this sample RFP and then like use that as like, okay, this is what a district RFP generally looks like, and then start plugging in like, the ideal firm will do X and Y and Z, and it will be done by this day and like all those things. And then, a week from today in our next meeting, maybe like the three of us talking about each of our individual wish list items and how they all align or don't align and what makes sense. And then having Lisa there to say, whoa, just provide some guardrails around turning it into something that's like functionally doable.
For
Does
sure.
that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I totally agree. So what's our timeline? I just want to see we're meeting a week from now. So we have a time to each working on our wish list.
Yeah.
And we share, I think we just need to have everything in our Google. So we can share those wish lists. And then next Friday when we meet, we can just figure out which one is our best foundation. And Lisa can help us, to go through and to see, okay, those are doable, can be more actionable to those firms.
Yep.
All right. Can we do individual one like you just mentioned? I like the idea you just mentioned about the wish list from each of us, so we can come out. We may find a lot of common ground, common goals. Then we can say, okay, this is exactly what we want to see moving forward. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think our first step, we're working on a wish list about the scope of the work for next Friday. Sarah and Fatuma.
That sounds great.
That's good.
Okay. Okay. So you think we can share, if we can share all our drafts before Friday, so we can come out with a clean version coming on Friday, because we don't have too much time, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. We can go, step by step. I think, can we just see ourselves when you guys feel like, we can have
I think that's a realistic goal. Yep.
yes, okay, great. Can we share, like I said, like Wednesday next week? We can share to our emails and then
Yep.
come on, and then we can put everything on once. So I'm just wonder, Superintendent, maybe you can answer that question. When we have our wish lists, we put everything together. Who's going to do the cleanup? Is going to be Lisa or is going to be us
I mean,
as a
so
committee?
I think the decision about what's the final language in the RFP and
Yeah.
how to weigh trade-offs is really to the committee. I think
Okay.
Lisa's expertise will be to push you to be really clear on what are the goals, what's the process, what's the expected outcomes,
Okay.
what's the qualifications you're looking for the firm, what's the things you want them to submit so that you can judge their experience with past projects. Those are the pieces she's going to guide you on. But that decision about how much you want to put a priority on qualitative versus quantitative, how much you want to put it on comparison to districts versus
Okay.
similar size organizations versus like Maine. is really to the committee
Okay.
on that.
Okay. So what our next step, Sarah and Fatuma, we go with our wish list individual and we come out that one next Friday and we listen to Lisa and she can guide us to the best practice of ERP, the way we can align those different, first step and second step with the scope, the goals, and the selection, everything.
Yeah.
If that
And
one can be our next step. Go ahead.
yeah, just to make sure, just for clarity, the between now and next Friday, the idea that we will all, the three of us, put together our individual wish lists and email them, is intended to just be for awareness, right? Like, we're not going to be like, going back and forth in email and like, making decisions, but hey, heads up, here's what I'm planning to bring to the meeting on Friday. And then we'll have the discussion in the next meeting, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Are you okay, Fatuma, with the steps?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay. Perfect. So I think, let me check on the agenda. Which next are we? Ah, shit. Okay. All right. So I think we good for today, right? We cover everything that we're supposed to do for today. And I think we're about to adjourn. Can I ask a motion? Can I make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are all in favor. Fatuma?
Yes.
All right, so we already have our book, so we adjourn at 2:30. This is my time. You guys are 8:30, right? So I'm already this is my time. Yes. Portland time is 8:30 in the morning. All right, guys.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think we are all set for the first step. So we see each other next Friday. Between that time, we can share all our wish lists in our emails. So we have exhaustive lists and to bring us a discussion on next Friday.
Sounds good.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Guys, have a nice weekend and you guys take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.